Okay, yeah, just a small picture from the daily life of people in the IC industry. So there is the big IC customer who is complaining that your IC has an EMC problem. At least this was the way how people, or how EMC problems were treated when I was at AMS or at Infineon. So we always had big customers, and they were complaining that the electromagnetic emission or the immunity is not okay. So usually they were complaining to the field application engineer or to the sales guy. The field application engineer and the sales guys, they are not the EMC experts, so they very often did not really understand what the problem of the customer is. They just said, oh, EMC problem, whatever EMC is. And this application engineer was then very often coming into my office and then asking, oh, we have a problem here at the customer, and the problem is something related to EMC. And then it always goes back and forward. And then I was asking, yeah, what's EMC? Is it emission? Is it immunity? Is it electrostatic discharges? Are these the automotive test biases or whatever? And then, yeah, very often they are going back and forth in order to get some further information. And then finally, we figured out that it seems to be an emission problem. So why don't we use the DEM cell to characterize the electromagnetic emission of the whole IC? So we are taking a kind of electromagnetic fingerprint of the IC to see in which frequency ranges we have problems. So therefore, the first step was very often making a DEM cell measurement. And this was one of the measurement results that we got. And we could already see that around, yeah, what is it, 100 megahertz, there is quite a lot of electromagnetic emission. So about 150 megahertz, we have high emission. And then the question was, where does this electromagnetic emission come from? Yeah, for sure it was coming from the IC, but which part of the IC was then responsible for this electromagnetic emission? So the logical next step that we did, we were making a surface scan. Exactly at 150 megahertz, so we were scanning with the near field probe, for example, the near magnetic field around 150 megahertz, maybe from 149 to 151 megahertz. And then we get this colored picture, and then we were going usually to the layouter and asking, hey, what's below this red area? And then, yeah, very often it was then clear what has to be redesigned. So we also did some redesigns. Then we were doing the surface scan again. And yeah, as you can see, the problem here has vanished. But another problem was coming up here at this frequency range. No. In this case, the scaling of the amplitudes is different. So in this case, we have solved the problem. But as my software that I was writing was always scaling to the highest value that was measured. The highest value was then measured here, but this was far below. And then to prove this, we also did, again, a DEM cell to see how much improvement we had, and yeah, in this case, all this electromagnetic emission that was too high was then finally gone.